Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcoming you to the fourth and final part of the 40 Jeff Diamond facts you need to know about me. And these last 10 facts are basically the people that make Jeff Diamond tick, the influences, the muses, and all about that. So, anyhow, it's like these are the 10 most important facts that you need to know about me and all that. And it'll be more of a family thing, like not really my immediate family, but more like my family, my friends and family, if you will. But anyway, we'll start off. The first major fact you need to know about me is that, yeah, I was born April 9th, 1985, of course, 40 years ago today, when this is coming out, in Kitchener at 12:50 p.m., a healthy 8 pounds, 6 ounces. The fact of the matter was that my family knew damn well that things were going to be awkward for me and all that. Yes, I was born like the longest of the three babies with me and my siblings, but the fact of the matter is my family knew darn well something was wrong with me. I always thought that it was the diamond side of the family that made me, autistic and all that. But the fact of the matter is it was the autism gene came from the maternal side, the Snyder side, and all that. It explains a few things, but you know what? It doesn't matter. You know what? I don't care whose side I got it on. I am autistic. That's the way I am. And like my family knew and my siblings knew is going to happen. So there. The second crazy fact is, should I talk about my siblings? Of course I'll talk about my siblings and all that. I have an older brother, Edward, and an older sister, Christine. Edward works for a company in Mississauga. Christine works for Pillars in Waterloo, being a lab technician. Edward does stuff, and he does stuff. He, once in a while, will go up to Ottawa and deal with the government. Well, I shouldn't really say that, but it's probably not what I think it is. I'm probably just overreaching. But the fact of the matter for that is that I have two siblings that love me dearly and all that. I'm not gonna mince words. I screwed up, or I thought I screwed up my relationship with my sister by being such a brat and all that, and teasing her and giving her fits and all that. I know brothers and sisters are prone to doing that. Like my nephew does that to my niece every so often. But the fact of the matter is, it's natural for brothers and sisters to fight. Everett and Christine bickered quite a bit, so it was natural for me and Christine to bicker and all that. Like I told Christine a couple times, I'm sorry for mishandling things, and she said we were just kids. She texts me from time to time, so we do have a bit of a relationship, even though I don't see her face to face as many times as I want her to be, like us to be together. At least we're together. At least there's great pictures and all that. So I'm proud of myself. The fact of the matter is that for years I was always under the impression that somebody was told my parents to put me in these special programs. Now remember, things to do with autistic kids were a lot different when I grew up in school in the 90s than they are now in the 2020s. But the fact of the matter is those type of schools still existed, that they put the dumb kids, the I can't really say the word because that makes me a hypocrite. But you get the picture. But like I was always under the impression that someone was trying to reach out to my parents and say that we could give them all at once in Toronto, and then my parents are like, "No, we are raising this kid like his own. He's going to regular school just like everyone else, and he'll be fine." But of course, I was told that my perceptions were wrong. That a few family physicians said, keep his kid in normal school and all that. Let him learn like the other children do, because he'll be smart. He'll figure things out. If you put him in those schools, he's not going to know much, and he's going to lose his potential. My parents did all they could with me and everything. And I'm glad they listened to the physicians and went against convention and put me in regular school because you know what? Despite the fact that I had to go with CPRI stuff every year for till I was grade 4, and the fact that I couldn't talk till I was 4 years old, they were so patient with me and all that. So why fight it? Quit. Fact number 4 is why am I obsessed with sports and all that? You probably want to know why. Well, it started from an early age. Before I could talk, apparently by the age of 2, 3 years old, I would steal the sports sections from the newspaper and read them in the living room and all that and be engrossed and all that. Kind of weird because I can't remember earlier than 6 years old having a love for sports and all that. Personally, I can't remember, but my family always says all that stuff. It was so cute and such. The fact of the matter is that it's amazing what could happen and everything. So, my love of sports really gave me a thing. And, you know, I always read the sports section when at my house every day when I could, or watch the sports report on TV and try to know about my sports and all that. I would read sports books at the library, well, at Royal Oxford's library, and it still gets there. I read a lot of sports books. I still have sports books. I don't use the internet for everything. I use sports books because it makes me smarter and I learn from them. The fact of the matter is that one person really fostered my love for sports, and her name was Mildred Diamond, aka Grandma. My grandma knew I was different, and Grandma Diamond treated me quite well. A little too well sometimes because, I think I was very spoiled as a grandchild. I'll admit that much. I spent a lot of time with her at her house during the summers and all that. I got to do stuff with her and everything more so than my cousins and my siblings. Nevertheless, Grandma Diamond did not try to ruin my sports influence. Grandma Diamond was caring and was willing to allow me to watch Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday nights. Heck, even we went to one of her neighbors, Ethel Cassidy's, to watch hockey every so often. And basically, I watch hockey, watch sports, watch baseball, watch the Blue Jays on TV. Like Grandma would allow me to watch the Blue Jays on TV. She peered in from time to time. Heck, she even let me watch Montreal Expos games, and they were in French. At times, my mom would try to dissuade me, but the fact of the matter is, I don't blame my mom for things because you know what? She's like, sports can only lead you so far. I get it. Don't blame her. The fact of the matter is, Grandma Diamond allowed me to watch Expo games. And it's the thing with the French language. I can understand it, I can read it, but I can't speak it. That's the problem. But the fact of the matter is, Grandma Diamond allowed me even to watch hockey games in French and all that. Anything for the product. Am I right? And she would always allow me to have hockey cards at her house and even buy me hockey magazines and baseball magazines and football magazines. I don't think they even have basketball, but yeah, I was engrossed by it and all that. And my love of sports was always fostered by Grandma Diamond. I felt sad when she died in 2015, but she was 96 years old. She lived a healthy, full life. Heck, she was still driving at 90 years old. Most people don't do that. But yeah, Grandma Diamond was one of the biggest influences on me for sports and all that. And that's who I credit with my love of sports. Could be my family, it could be my friends, but no, it's my Grandma Diamond. And you can take that to the bank. Another influence on me that I actually did not, that actually you probably might not know about, but he actually does YouTube videos. His name is Jason Lundgren, Lundgren, just like Dolph Lundgren and all that. Jason made his mark with YouTube videos like talking about the Seattle Seahawks and talking about wrestling. He was once an arcade enthusiast who set lots of high scores, and Seattle media reported on him. And then his love of sports got him to do a lot of stuff on Facebook and also on YouTube. On his channel, he's reinvented himself with his YouTube videos by making them shorts, by basically talking about, you know, stuff in like 5 minute topics, 5 minute videos, and giving reviews. He gives movie reviews, he gives TV reviews, he gives reviews about stuff from the 80s. I wish I had that patience. I wish I had that technology. But this guy does a fine, good job, and he does quite well. I even once talked to him about sports and all that, like on the phone. But the fact of the matter is that, Jason to me is big. Do you know what else is big about Jason? He's autistic, like myself. He has Asperger's, just like myself. The fact of the matter is, his Asperger's made him a superhero in a sense. But Jason, unfortunately, unlike me, grew up in classes with the not so gifted, if you will. And that's putting it lightly. He grew up in a bad environment. He's 3 years older than me, but yeah, compared to me, like I grew up like being in normal classes like everyone else. Like he went through normal classes like everyone else in like high school and community college. I went to community college. But the fact is, Jason Lundgren is one of the best guys out there. And, I have my friendship with him and I cherish it. Next, I'll talk about, well, first of three facts about people who really were massive influences on my life. The first one was my dad, Ronald Diamond. Born in 1947, and he was my dad. He was 38 when I was born and all that. And my dad was happy because my grandpa, well, my paternal grandfather, his dad, Maurice Diamond, was dying of cancer. And basically, he wanted a grandson so badly because the last two or last three, I think the last three grandchildren he got, my grandpa got, were girls. So I turned out to be a boy. And he was proud and all that. And although he died when I was 8 months old in December 1985, my grandpa was happy with me and all that and wanted to cherish spending time with me. Of course, I don't know much about my grandpa because, I was only 8 months old at the time, but I've been told that he was just like my dad. And my dad was great to me and all that. My dad and I would eat breakfast together before I went to school. We would share the newspaper and all that. And my dad and I watched sports. Well, my dad was okay with me watching like curling or figure skating whenever it was on Sunday afternoons, like on the kitchen TV and all that. And he didn't mind. It's like the Blue Jays. He didn't mind at all. My dad came to the Blue Jay games with me when I talked about yesterday. And I told Dad, "Do you enjoy these games?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course I do." Cool. My dad wasn't really much of a sports fan and all that. But my dad also fostered my love for sports and didn't question it too much. You know, it was great spending time with Dad. One massive example, and I said that at his funeral in 2020, it was in 2002. It's the Senators and the Leafs in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Ottawa up 3 games to 2, the pivotal game 6 the Sunday night in Ottawa. The Leafs needed to win to force a game 7 back home. My mom was at the nursing home, was at Nephew Nursing Home working. So it was me and Dad in the living room, stretched out on couches, just watching the hockey game and talking the Leafs and all that. It was amazing for a 17-year-old like myself to talk to my dad about sports and all that. And I'm going to get emotional. I know I'm going to get emotional. But him dying 5 years ago on Leap Day 2020, no less, it shook me. 73 years old. He should never have died that young. He died of pneumonia. He died of heart failure caused by pneumonia, and that's all I'm going to say. But the fact of the matter is that it taught me. His death taught me not to take my family for granted and all that, and to cherish all the times and all that. And truth be told, I just wish he was there when I got to talk, when I got to do my experiences. Like, I worked through my 5 years at Canadian Tire. I would talk about my times being with Bill and watching the sports games with him that I talked about yesterday. Heck, I would tell him about the times I experienced things um, with Aaron. I talked about last night, and I just wish he was alive to see me hit 40. It would be amazing to see my dad be proud of me hitting the 40 mark and all that. And it's gonna hurt. It hurts on the day, on the anniversary of his death, and when his birthday hits February 1st. But my dad was great to me. My dad could have left me off in the distance, but he did not. He was a great dad, and that's all I'm gonna say. Speaking of massive influences, I can't do this video without talking about Bill Lang's experiences with me. I talked about him in a few minutes of yesterday's video, but the fact is, Bill and I met by chance. In 2013, when I decided to go open space at the behest of one of the downtown Kitchener work work centers, saying that, this thing for people with disabilities. So I go there and then I meet this guy in New England Patriots gear. And I'm like, cool, he's a New England Patriots fan like myself. People with different disabilities. I first thought Bill had a disability like me. I'm like, oh, cool, he's a Patriots fan. I didn't know he was one of the moderators. And I'm like, really? So he was doing all that stuff. And, Bill and I grew and all that. We were both Patriot fans and both massive sports fans. And we always liked to see each other every Monday night and talk sports and all that stuff. It was great. A couple years later, he invited me to his home. And I'm like, okay, cool. But the friendship grew. And it really grew and all that. It was fun, like, being with Bill. I talked about it yesterday at length. I talked about 2015. We both were working out at the University of Waterloo before a infestors thing, and then all of a sudden the Blue Jays game against the Rangers, the famous Bautista bat flip game, we watched with other students at the U of W Student Center, and you should have heard the massive roar when Bautista's home run went to the left center field bleachers, and everyone just went up and down. Me and Bill embraced each other. Not that way, people. But nevertheless, it was fun. And we got to do stuff. We got to go to see Canada Day festivities in Cambridge. We got to see, or attempted to try to see Doug Gilmore at an event in Oakville, but he blew us off. And all that. Got to experience things in different cities with different people. Like, Bill would have people over at his house, his friends from like Brampton and college and all that. And, I got to network with them. And then, with Jen and little baby Braden, who's now 3+, and he's just like his dad. He looks just like Bill and all that. And probably rambunctious like Bill. Nevertheless, Bill and I went through a lot of experiences. There was a time in 2018 that we were not speaking to each other because I did some stupid caption on one of his Facebook photos. I don't know what I said. I don't know what the thing was, but basically it was dark. I tried reaching out to him. He wouldn't listen. I felt like it was just nothing. And I felt bad. Like I was never going to make a friend like him ever again. It got me thinking about things. But then there was a light. He actually emailed me the information. Well, I decided to email him and try to get some answers and all that. And then we had a conversation. We talked about it. We both forgave each other. We watched the Super Bowl together, which was our first time seeing each other in like 3 months. It was just classical. And then we got to see the Raptors win the NBA title, like from his house. It was just amazing seeing the Raptors win the NBA championship. It was nice seeing the Leafs win some playoff games and lose some playoff games too, and me collapsing on his floor, like clunk. But the fact of the matter is that Bill's been there for me. Bill's the one who got me to Benton Street Baptist Church, even though that I was not raised Baptist, I was raised Presbyterian United and Mennonite too. But the fact of the matter is that he got me that church, and the church has a good ball hockey program that me and him go to every Thursday, whenever possible. And you know, he made me network. We we had fun. We had fun together, especially in 2021 when Euro happened and England bounced through Germany, Ukraine, um, Denmark, and Italy. Well, went through those teams at Bobby O'Brien's. We were there every game in the playoffs because God and satirical forces had us both watching those games there. It was fun. And then, even though England lost the Euro, I told Bill, I said, you know what? England may have lost to Italy, but you know what? Experiencing this run with you is worth it. It's been worth it with Bill and all that. We drive each other batty. I mean, what type of friends group doesn't? But the fact of the matter is that Bill's been my best friend for years. I value him as a friend. We talk almost every day about stuff, and we have great conversations. And Bill even told me when I phoned him yesterday, when we talked yesterday, I said, how did you handle becoming 40 years old? Bill says, I just had the mindset that I may be in my 40s, but you know what? I've thought about things in my 30s and all that. And he basically said that, it's all about your mindset. And I agree. I totally agree. And Bill's been one of my biggest influences in my life. Take it or leave it. The simple fact is that my biggest influence in my life is not my dad, which is shocking. It's not Bill Lang. Heck, it's not even my work BFF, Aaron Demarin, and the Canadian Tire crew, and the sellers crew, or the Target crew. It is definitely my brother Edward. My brother is 9 years older than me. Okay, big difference. But the fact is that, Edward was doing his own thing, and then he told my dad, he said, you know, if Jeffrey's going to get into college, he can move in with me. I'll find a place. He and I will live together, and he'll go to school and all that, and we'll see what happens from there. Edward risked his life. Well, not in that way, but Edward risks a lot to have me live with him and all that. And Edward got me into his inner circle of his friends. Many of them have been poker friends. Many of them I've been to parties at and all that with very terrible bangs. If you look at the photos, like, geez, and look at my hair now. But the fact is, I got to connect with Amy and Mike Kappa. I got to connect with their two kids, Jordan and Brady. I got to interact with their pets, including Pebbles, the lovely Shih Tzu that really loved me so much and one time peed on me. I don't think that's very friendly. But the fact of the matter is that, I connected with them. I connected with Dwayne, the firefighter. I connected with Brian, the strange guy with the strange truck and, the off roading, and his two kids, if you will. I got to connect with Dan Tardif. We call him Tits because, his last name. We got to connect with some of Kappa's friends and old acquaintances from baseball and the bus and all that. Edward got me acquaintances. He got me to know his friends over in Niagara Falls. Remember watching and playing Xbox, and one calling me Rain Man. Well, in a good way, not a bad way, of course. The fact of the matter is that, yeah, it was fun. Edward and I lived together, and then he got married, moved to Milton, and there were questions about where I would live, but Edward said that as long as I find a roommate, I can stay living on Pinedale. And I am. I'm living with my Aunt Mick. I talked about that on Sunday. But the fact of the matter is, it's been 16 years. We complement each other in a sense. We try to stay out of each other's way and all that. You know, Everything works, and we keep our we don't interfere with the others' lives and all that as much. But the fact of the matter is that, Edward now lives in Mississauga with his wife and two kids. They're lovely. My niece and nephew are nice people. My niece may have learning disabilities, but she's a lovely girl, and she tries hard and all that. And I'm sure she'll be fine. I'm sure she'll be fine. I sympathize with her because, I went through a lot of crap too. And my nephew is a triple threat. He's a hockey player, he's a good artist, and he's a Fortnite gamer that puts his YouTube stuff up and gets lots more views than my stuff. What the heck? Well, Fortnite I suck at. I would not do well in all that. I might have to go back to console gaming videos too myself. Ha. Nevertheless, my brother fostered my love for sports, and he taught me some lessons and all that. He was very patient with me, very patient with me. And I know that some of my family know that, and a lot of you guys do know that Edward's not my true brother, that we both have different dads. But I want to say this as pointedly as possible. I do not call Edward my stepbrother. I do not call Edward my half brother. I call Edward my brother. I always call him my brother. I call him my big brother because he sacrificed so much for me. He got me to do the stuff for ODSP. He got me. He pushed me to ODSP. He pushed me to a job. He pushed me to be a better person. If it wasn't for Edward, I don't know where I would be. I mean, would I be living with my parents? Probably. But the fact of the matter is, he got me out of my comfort zone. And Edward is my landlord. He allows me and Mick to live where we are in Kitchener, as long as we're both happy. And Edward is a great guy, like it or not. Take it as it is. And I'm going to tell you a dark fact about me. It's about my personal life, as they call it. I don't have a significant other. I don't have kids. I don't have much of a relationship. I have relationships, like friendships, with a lot of people. But one thing I will say is that I do, like most people, most guys have had some unrequited loves with girls. There's three examples I can think of. Obviously, I don't want to name names and all that. But the fact of the matter is that I had infatuations with these girls. There's sometimes nothing wrong with that, all that, but it could have got worse before it got better. I mean, it got to the point I just could not let go of these girls and all that, and I felt like I needed to attach myself to them. I didn't do anything like super, super terrible that would get me put in prison or in a loony bin. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, I'm in contact with one of them, not so often. Like, she is my Facebook friend, one of my Facebook friends, but I don't communicate with her a lot. I, I don't, yeah, I don't communicate with her a lot. I mean, we do talk from time to time, but in a friendly manner. But the fact of the matter is that I'm ashamed of myself. I know you can make the argument that, oh, you're just a kid and all that, because the friendships were around by the time one was when I was 6 till 11, and then one was when I was 15 through 18, and then 18 plus for a few years. But the fact of the matter is that I'm straight. I'm a straight guy. I don't have any gay tendencies and all that. Nor do I discriminate against the LGBTQ plus community because they've gone through a lot of crap and I've gone through a lot of crap. I'm not homophobic. I know people in my work who are of LGBTQ plus 2 plus thing, and I don't discriminate because you know what? I've been discriminated against in my when I was younger. It would be wrong, wrong, wrong if I did that crap to them. I do like girls. I do watch things. I see pictures and make me smile and all that. I just wish I found somebody that loves me for who I am. You know, I'm not the same person every day. Um, it's it's one thing I'm really ashamed of is my unrequited love for these girls. Like, I'm not stalking anyone. I'm not like following other girls around and all that. That's not me. Once that part of me almost got exposed, I stopped. I stopped dead in my tracks. It's not worth it because you could go to jail or you like me, you'd be put in a loony bin. That's not me. I do want to be with a girl one day. I do want to be with someone that loves me for who I am. Someone who can understand a man who's sports obsessed. A man who is autistic. That's the biggest backbreaker for me. Is that I feel like I wish I was normal and all that. Because maybe I find a girl who loves me for who I am. But you know what? If someone out there is can care about a guy who's sports obsessed, who's autistic, who is obsessed with a lot of things, works at Canadian Tire, takes the bus, doesn't drive, you know, I'm all for it. It's just a dark part of my life that I wish got better. But the one thing I want to say is my family never has pushed me to find a girlfriend, never be married and all that. It's understandable. I wasn't projected to do that. I want to one day. I really do. But at 40, I don't know if that's just a pipe dream or what could be. And kind of to add on to that is the fact of the matter that, I may have separation anxiety. I do have anxiety attacks. I do have panic attacks. People at work have seen it. Bill has seen it. People have seen me at my worst and my nervousness and my convoluted self. I have separation anxiety. I think I do because I get emotionally attached to somebody and when they leave, I can't let go. I really can't. And at Canadian Tire, my first two GMs I worked with, they left for bigger, better things, and I thought I could never recover because they were so gracious to me and understanding about my autism and understanding all that. Heck, I might have separation anxiety because Joe Cayenne, who used to own the store, he owned the store for a year before I came through. And, he's gone to Woodbridge now. We got the guy from Richmond Hill. And it's going to be hard to let go because the guy put himself through and never questioned my integrity. He knew my work integrity and all that. Yes, I wasn't perfect at work, and I admit it to him. I said, I wish I was more perfect. He said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Everyone loves you. You're the glue of the store. And I'm like, yeah, right. And it's like, I don't see disability. I see ability. And when I made that speech at his thing, that's on YouTube, I meant every freaking word. And you know what? I don't script it. I said it from the heart. And with Aaron now leaving for Kingston in June, I might have anxiety when he's gone. Because, am I going to find somebody who understands me at work and all that? I'm going to feel anxious if Bill ever leaves Kitchener and all that. But I know that online relationships, like Facebook relationships, are perfect. But you know one thing, and I'm going to tell you this right here, right now. A lot of people probably in the world think this guy's a loser and he doesn't belong. Well, you know what? I do belong. Yes, I'm autistic. Yes, I'm shy. Yes, I have anxiety problems. But you know what? I grew as a person. Since I moved from Plateau to Kitchener, I grew as a person. I'm getting to experience things that I never thought I experienced. Edward's friend group, college life, work life, working for like 5 companies, for the highs and lows of everything. a encounter at a thing for people with disabilities that led me to Bill Lang as a friend and all that, and 11 plus year friendship. The fact that I got to see major events. I got to see hometown hockey in Kitchener. I got to meet Ron McLean. I got to meet Pinball Clemens. I got to meet Cito Gaston. I got to meet Daryl Sittler. Many people don't get to do that by chance encounters. I wish I met Paul Coffey. I had two chances, but I failed. Nevertheless, you know what? I got to meet some very interesting people. I get to network and all that. Experiences, yes. Work stuff, yes. Early life that molded me to the man I am, yes. And influences, absolutely. I'll tell you this right here, right now. I'm proud to be 40 years old. I think a lot of people thought when I was 40, I wouldn't be the way I am today. I may be single, yes. I may not have a relationship, but I do have a strong work relationship with Canadian Tire. I have a strong friendship with co-workers and people like Bill Lang. I do have good relationships with my brother, my sister, and my mom, and probably my dad if he was still alive. I am gracious. I am grateful for what God has brought me in 40 years. I may not please Him, but God has led me through a lot of things. And I questioned myself. Like, I asked God, why would you take my dad? Are you punishing me for something? But He assured me, no, I'm trying to lead you through a life and make you learn to let things go. I'm gracious for being 40 years old. 40 years old. I am gracious that I have I have a job at Canadian Tire for 5 years and all that. That yes, I'm not perfect, but you know what? Everyone loves me. People give me compliments all the time. Customers and especially coworkers saying I'm the hardest working guy. Yeah, right. No, I'm not. One of them, yes. Not number one. But, through everything, I got to thank all of you guys for all your support, all your love, and I would not do it without you guys. I wouldn't. I'd be who I am today. I have a YouTube career because of this. I have a YouTube career that I changed my tactics, and I have people that love me for who I am. And, community is community. That's what I was always taught. A community can help you and mold you. And that's the Facebook community I have, the YouTube community I have, and the in person community. Thank you all. God bless you all. Take time to appreciate your family for what they are. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.